I will preface this black currant video as well by saying that this was the first video that I actually ever filmed with this phone. And so again, there's wind, it's not ideal light. I'm trying to adjust the sound so that one can hear it well, but I still wanted to post it because I really like it and I like the information I was able to give. My daughter filmed it, so it's a bit shaky too. So if you can endure it, I do believe it has good content on it, and I am continually learning how to better manage this piece of equipment so that I can get some better videos on here. Hi, I'm going to talk about black currants today. So the reason why I chose black currants is because they are one of the things that right now, mid-July in zone 4, are actually ready to harvest. This particular shrub is really loaded. Black currant is a shrub or a bush habit, and this will get about, I'd say about 5 feet tall, maybe 5 feet wide. It does do well with pruning, which I have not yet learned how to do because I'm very hesitant to prune, but I need to learn. So I saw that you went in on here. If you want to just take the phone, yeah, and show here, all through here, down there. It's just loaded with berries. Pick some of those today. I want to show you the difference here that this, if you get in close, this is a currant leaf. That's the shape of the currant leaf. This actually in here is a Nanking cherry. So that is, this entire piece is not one giant currant. It's actually a currant and a Nanking cherry that I planted when they were probably 2 feet tall, thinking that this would be a great spot for them, but they obviously have both gotten big enough that I need to figure out what to do with them. But I'll just show you here. All I brought out was a colander here. The black currant, they're a very tart berry, so they are okay for fresh eating, but they give you that little like tartness in the back of your mouth. So we don't do a lot of fresh eating of the black currants. What I'll do instead is a lot of washing and freezing. And then these are really good for jams, jellies, pies. I would like to make a syrup. There's black currant syrup. And this particular black currant was actually given to me by a friend years ago. This has been in its spot here for 4 years, and I had it in a different yard for about 2 years prior. So actually when pruned back so it's manageable to dig up, they transplant really well too, or I have found them to transplant well. They might take a year or two to bear again, but once they start bearing, I have found them to be very, very prolific and very easy to grow and very easy to bear. So I'll keep picking here for a minute, and this is all I'm going to do is go up and down the areas here that have the berries on them. And if I wasn't trying to manage a video, I would also probably enlist my children's help to make it a little easier. Sometimes they'll help me. But all I'm going to do really is just go up and down here and pick all these because there is a lot. And the same with other berries. Some here you get more than others. Within zone 4, sometimes a late frost will really affect that. If we get cold really late into the spring season, then that kills off flower buds for a lot of different things. Pollinators affect it. So black currants. Again, not much for eating fresh, but they do really well with preserving. I've actually, in my learning or desire to preserve more, have just washed them so they're clean and then frozen them, and we've used them into the winter to do more baked goods. I've made black currant scones, we've made black currant cookies, things like that. Or I also like, when they're fresh or even frozen, putting them in smoothies. And this plant, like I said, I'm kneeling right now, so it's, once I stand up, it's, I'd say, I'm 5'8", so it's about 5 feet tall, maybe 4.5 feet. This is probably about as mature as this one will get, but pruning it back will keep it more manageable, and it can increase the fruit yield when a well-pruned fruit plant is really taken care of in that fashion. Full all the way over. It's really hanging down. It really actually deserves a good lopping here to kind of keep it in control. These are actually 2 currant bushes. If you come down here, you can see the shape of the leaves are the same. So these are just volunteers, which I think is fun because I can give that away. the last thing I'll show you about the currant, obviously at some point just thrown some currants or some currants somehow got in there because a seed got down in here, and this is its first season. Now this has got some browning on the leaves. I probably could do some more research to find out why. It might just be that we had a bunch of storms recently. Everything's a little ragged from the wind, but this is one season of growth on a currant bush. I mean, it already has the woody growth down there at the base, so it really is growing quite well here. And my plan for this is that I will leave it here because it will ideally get about as big as the other one, and then that's a nice little cover for the back of my compost bin, because that's not the most beautiful thing to look at. So that was my fun volunteer discovery of the black currant for the season, was finding that there. And when I found it, it was just the one little leaf, and I kept monitoring. And I think what I'll do at the end is just post a picture of how much we got. I may try and weigh it too, just to show off of one plant how much you can get in one season off a mature plant. And you can see from already showing those volunteers how easy it is to propagate. You could propagate by seed, which is what these ones did without my doing any work. You could propagate by cutting, which I actually have successfully done. So you cut the fresh stem. Let's find an area here that has an example. It's pretty late in the season here, so we might not find the best example. But if you look at here, if you look at this growth here, this is a dark wood, and you see how it lightens up into a lighter wood? That new growth is where I would cut on the light wood and then strip the leaves, and I could actually probably do a separate video about this. So you cut where the dark wood or the older growth turns into that light wood right there. Strip off the leaves here. I have rooting hormone that I use, so I pop that into some rooting hormone, pop it into the soil. You want to keep it really well watered. I would actually keep these inside probably, because sitting outside, they're too sensitive if I wanted to start a cutting, and this isn't the ideal time. I did it in the spring and the fall would be better, but I would keep them. If you're going to do it in the fall in Minnesota, you're going to be overwintering them. Otherwise, in the spring, best time, you can come out here when that new growth is just starting. So I have propagated it that way as well. A third way would be division. I do want to move some of this fall. I will be ideally vlogging that and posting the different moves come the fall. Spring and fall is the best time to dig up something, period, but especially of this size. So once I figure out what I'm going to move and where, I can film that. But that would be another way to create more, would be by straight division. Once I dig it up, I take a spade and I start chopping at the root ball to create more. You can probably see with the size, if I were to dig this up, it'd be easier to separate out by new growth that's there. So I'm going to continue to collect all of these berries. And this is what we got from our one black currant harvest. And I will now, like it showed in the video, I just brought out a colander. So I'll rinse these now, and then I'm actually going to weigh them on a scale and see what the weight is for what we got. So with these black currants, I'm just going to rinse them like this. Actually, the smell it's very aromatic. Once I get the water going, you can really smell them. So I'll pick out any of the leaves. There's some leaves that came with them. A couple of them have full clusters that came out as opposed to just the berries. So I'll pick all that clean. So I have currants that are actually ready to be eaten fresh or frozen. And then I'll weigh it out and see how much I have. So off of that one black currant, rather large in size, I got what I guesstimated to be about 1.8 pounds, so almost 2 pounds of berries, which is a decent amount for the one plant. I'm gonna make some smoothies and then I will probably freeze the rest, just laying them flat in freezer bags and making sure they're laid nicely so that they don't get smushed when they're actually freezing. The one thing I do recall not mentioning in the video is sunlight requirements. You would want full sun for anything in this area that's going to be trying to fruit and then give you foods. They will probably still give you some production. Any fruiting, flowering plant will give you some production, but the more shady the area, the less it will give you. So I have a different video about yesterberries actually that I really like, but because they're planted in an area that's kind of shaded by a maple, I'm not getting near the size or production on those plants as I am on a currant or some of the other fruiting shrubs that I have in full sun. So that's one thing you want to take into consideration when you plant something is its full growth size, which as you noted in the video, I did not necessarily pay attention to. So I'm going to have to do some digging up and some moving, but also sunlight requirements. And if there's trees around it that are smaller right now, what are those trees going to look like 5 or 10 years from now as they get bigger? You want to make sure you don't plant it in an area where you will need to then dig it up 5 years from now. That being said, I would still say to invest that time in learning what that means and to still plant. This is a prime example. I was given both the black currants and the Nanking cherry that is next to it, and I just wanted to get them in the ground and wanted to start a garden. So now 4 years later, I'm figuring out what I have to do to make that garden ideal, but I at least already have a bunch of established plants that may not be in their ideal location, but that to me becomes more of a landscaping ideal sunlight maneuvering issue that I actually really enjoy, as opposed to not having anything at all, and then I wouldn't have my 1.8 pounds of berries to deal with now.